I'm doing well.
Awesome. Yeah, good to see you guys. I know Chris is going to be joining us here in a little bit too. So yeah, it's kind of open session to help answer any questions or to help you get going. So yeah, how can I help?
Haven't started building mine yet. I got it in the mail this week. And I saw somewhere you said you could make it bigger. The chain's the only thing that keeps it, that limits you.
So yes, the standard size is 4 by 8 feet. So do you want to cut bigger than 4 by 8?
Well, longer, not so much wider than 4 feet, but longer. 12, 16, yes. That.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up a little bit, but
12, 16 feet, would that be unrealistic?
You can do that, but you'll need some really long chains to do that. So right. You can increase your chains to like 15 feet each, but I'm not sure if that will give you that much. You'd probably need to at least double them because the standard chains are 11 feet. So you probably need to at least have like 22-foot chains to double that length to get it really long, to be able to put like 2 of them together. And I'm not sure, I don't know any off the top of my head anybody who has got that extension on there. So I'm not sure of the troubleshooting and stuff that you'd have to go in there, because you'd also need to make sure that it's really high up. Part of the reason why you need to extend it is because it's designed to do a full piece of plywood, like 4 by 8. So it works with 2 right-angled triangles. So if you want to try to extend it out, the triangles would be like flattened down, and they need to have enough space because you need to have a wide space right here. So you'd have to move your top beam probably double what it should be. So it'd probably need it to at least be 36 inches, if not farther, from the top of your waste board to the top of your chains. So you'd probably need to be like 40 inches. So it'd need to be really high up to be able to have that stretched out length. That would take... It's going to take some experimenting, and I don't know off the top of my head on what you like exactly the calculations that you need to work with that. So if you want to start, I'd suggest starting with the 4 by 8 and then expanding it later. And then
I'm gonna do.
Build up to it and then like figure out exactly, because then you know that you kind of like got a feel for it, and then it's like, all right, I'm ready to extend it, and then you'll be able to kind of extend it and start experimenting and
yes.
moving.
Yes.
Awesome.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Hey, yeah, Drew. Hi, this is Greg Colvin.
Hey.
I bought a Maker M2 probably back in December. It was.
Awesome.
So I have some questions for you. I do want to talk to you guys separately. You know, I'm a tech fellow for a large company, and I sent you an email. And I do a lot of the 3D printing, purchasing advice and all that stuff, but we can talk separately.
Yeah, totally.
So all the advanced manufacturing falls under me in terms of engineering recommendations, right? So anyway, I do have a question. When you pause a print in Makerverse, it seems like you pause and I couldn't get it to restart. Is it basically reset it, and that therefore you basically just have to restart it all over again?
The cut on your M2?
Yeah, on the M2, on the Makerverse. Yeah.
On Makerverse. Are you using Makerverse 1.1.2 or Makerverse 1.0.6?
Yeah, you know, I can check. I thought it was 1.06, but I downloaded it not that recently, not that long ago. So
yeah, that's probably like the older one. So we are in the transitional phase. This next week, we're going to be releasing all the stuff to transition to the newest version. It's been in beta, and I have a little bit of experience with it, but there's a bunch of little fixes and bugs that are repaired in that version. And it's going to be in the Mac App Store and the Windows App Store too. And that version is going to come out next week. And it's going to come out with also the instructions to flash your firmware on your M2, because you'll have to update your M2 to be able to utilize it. So like all that's going to kind of come out
together. All right, we can do that. So we can do that. Okay.
If you pause it, it should let you resume it, because when you pause, it's supposed to just pause the code, and it'll basically, because of the way that the G code streaming works, it streams in like lines. You know, it'll give you instructions like You know, like if saying like, hey, walk forward 20 feet. Well, you're going to walk forward 20 feet and you can't just like tell it to stop in the middle of that 20 feet. That's to, you know, you have to finish walking 20 feet before you can get
Right. The
another
stepper
command.
motors have to complete their sequence.
Exactly. Yeah. So it should just pause after the last like sequence that it's already ran, and then you should be able to just resume it. So it sounds like that there might be like a weird bug or something with that, because it should just let you hit resume, and then it should just pick up exactly where it left off. But if you hit stop, then you do have to restart.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, resume is just basically the start button again, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you should just be able to pause and then like kind of go forward again.
Yeah.
So like you could pause it if something went wrong and you didn't want to end the whole thing. Like you could pause it and then turn your router off and then maybe, you know, have to change a bit or something along those lines. So that's kind of where pause is, and you have to pause before you can hit stop.
Yeah. I gathered that. Okay, it's all good. I mean, programs like this tend to have those sort of you know, glitches in them, and you know, we're used to working around them. Another another
new.
question on the calibration. It seems like calibration is not specific to a particular area on your 4x8 sheet of plywood. So when you run your calibration for X and Y, for example, then what happens is that you do that centered, for example, around your home, and then say if you move off to the side, you do the same calibration. But the calibration basically is fixed across the entire X and Y portion of the of the sheet of plywood, say, right?
Yes, and that's something that the new version changes too. So one of the things that I'm really excited about, 1.1.2, is it has what's called edge calibration, where you calibrate in different areas. So it's not just that middle and then just your wasteboard distance. You calibrate in different areas to give you a more finite calibration. So it actually will go to the holes, up to the sides, and then your drill holes in the sides, and you measure them, and it's a much more accurate way.
Yeah. So we, you know, one of the guys that I work with, he looked at it, he said, yeah, he could write a Python code, and we could go out and we could calibrate, and then what we do is we bring the G code in to the Python, and basically it would, you know, calibrate it over the distance, and that's what you would do, of course, in a larger format. Say if you're machining a hole like you do in a large Boeing aircraft, then what would happen is you go in there and machine that you know, door hole, then basically you have to calibrate it over the distance of the length of the fuselage. So is that what you're going to do? You're gonna have a Python G code calibration on that, or you're just basically going to stretch out and or have different sections? How's that exactly going to work?
I'm not the programmer. I don't program. So I don't know what language they've made it in, and what they've been building it off of. I know that it's built off of CNC.js, and that's how it's moved up. But we've had a lot of success with people with that whole new calibration procedure, because it changes and adds a whole bunch more steps to really drill down and give you a better calibration for your motors, especially like from edge to edge. So then you have similar distances from, like, you know, the top left corner, then all the way down to the you know, bottom right. So I'm not sure the programming language behind it, but I know that they have the scripts that are designed to input that stuff on there. And one thing that's really
and this guy
awesome,
looked at it and he said, he says not hard to do. So it's good. And he said it should be accurate. Do you have a feel for what the accuracy is? I mean, I have a feel for it. What do you think the tolerance accuracy, the variation is on the machine right now for typical use?
If you can get, if you go to millimeters and you're going like across the whole thing, I know some people that have gone all the way down to like 0.2 to millimeters on there. So you can get it really close, but also you can kind of get in the like a calibration spiral where you're trying to get it absolutely perfect when it's such a large machine. And because it is a kit and there's so many different variables, I would say if you're within like a millimeter or half a millimeter, then you're golden, because you're going to have to do some sort of finishing with your projects and stuff afterwards too, of like sanding it down and stuff like that. So I'd say under a millimeter right now. And then that's why we're working on those calibration features to get it better and better and better.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the truth is, if you're doing something aesthetic, it doesn't matter. Probably
Right.
doesn't matter. If you're doing something like in my case, I'm doing some
Exactly,
assembly and fit up, it does matter. But you know, the
absolutely.
bottom line is for what I see so far, it seems pretty good. So I think for the money, you did nice work. You know, it's very
Awesome.
similar to other systems I've seen.
That's great. So what kind of tolerance are you getting right now?
Well, I don't know. You know, I think in terms of thousandths of an inch, right? And so,
Okay.
you know that it all works up from, you know, other machines. If you're going to run a CNC machining center, you're in the plus or minus 1/1000th of an inch. You know, if you're in, you know, mechanical, like investment castings, you're on the plus or minus 5/1000th of an inch. If, you know, something like this, I would think if you could be plus or minus 20/1000ths of an inch, that's fantastic. But I'm guessing you're more like plus or minus maybe 50/1000ths of an inch. A large 3D printer that might do houses might be plus or minus 100/1000ths of an inch. Okay. But
Yeah.
those are large
So
gantry type systems. You know, I think this thing seems like it should work fine. There are some variations, certainly. You know, chain stretch, you're going to have that, right?
yeah, I mean
Um,
it's a DIY kit that
right.
it runs off of chains and it's on the wall. It's made to do like really giant projects. Like it's not really
Yeah.
made to do something that would be, you know, an aircraft part or something along those lines. It
Right.
just doesn't have those tolerances because it's not designed to do that. It's designed to be like a large format
Right. Right.
CNC
Right. Right.
machine. And I work in millimeters mostly, so I would need to type in the conversion to kind of see that. And
Right.
it's
Right.
designed to cut and to work in millimeters. So if you're
Yeah.
designing in inches and then moving it over, it's doing all those calibrations to like move that over. So like 1,000 or like 20/1000ths of an inch. I guess I can look that up right now and see what that is in millimeters.
Yeah. It's like half a mil, I think. But
Uh, let's see. What will that would be? If I can type it in right there, we go.
I'm the anti imperial system guy over here. I think the only American that hates the imperial system.
Yeah,
yeah,
millimeters are where, and I don't even see it. Like Google doesn't even want to.
yeah,
type
you
it
go to
in.
convert. What you do is
So,
you go download your convert app and you can type all that stuff in, right? That's the
and
most famous app. Just type in convert
okay,
on your computer and it'll bring it all in and it'll convert Celsius to Fahrenheit, you know,
okay,
pressure, all that stuff. But no, it's a good system, I think. You know, just you know, I'm mostly an aerospace engineer and you think of inches, not necessarily millimeters, you know. But no, it's a good system, I think. And you know, I got to rush off to
there we
something
go.
else
Point
real
five.
quick.
Hey, there we go. You
Yeah,
got it.
that's right. Yeah, 40
Perfect.
thou is about a millimeter. But in my
Yeah. So I
opinion,
mean, that's half a millimeter. That's right. What I was that tolerance
yeah,
that I was talking about. So
yeah,
perfect.
yeah. If you want better, go get a Haas 500 machining center, you know. But I think it's a good system for me so far. It seems
Awesome.
to work well, and I will say, you know, there are a couple things. Once again, you know, think the pause, reprint. There's a couple things I got to work through, but for what I want to do, it's going to be just fine. So I think
Great.
it's a nice setup for what it's worth.
Yeah, that's great, Greg. Yeah, and next week when we have all that information about uploading your firmware and you can move to the new version of Makerverse, that will help you a lot with just really toning it in there. Because I know that there's probably several people in here that use 1.1.2 already. I think Nathaniel does. He's been using it. You haven't used it yet? Oh, okay, I thought you had been using it. So
Yeah, I think we're using it on one of ours. I think.
Drew, you've been using it? Hey, man.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Well,
Yeah,
hey,
but-
thanks.
Cool.
Thanks, Drew.
Yeah, you bet, Greg. Does anybody else have any more questions?
Are the only is wood the only supported material, or can you use this on other materials?
To cut?
Yeah.
To cut different materials? Yeah, you can cut it. You can do if you can cut it with a router, you can cut it. So
You could do aluminum easily if you do, depending on what
Yeah.
aluminum, because we've done aluminum.
acrylic.
One thing yeah, we've done acrylic, we've done foam, we've done really soft insulation foam too with ours to do some backdrops for. We had one of the theater companies needed some backdrops, and we used that insulation foam, the big purple sheets you see, and it even does that, and it did that beautifully. We thought it might chip or melt, and it held up well.
Yeah, it does. It does really well. The biggest thing that you'll run into is just identifying the proper feeds and speeds, depth per pass based on the material. as well as bit selection. So like a lot of the insulation foam, and you get into like chloroplast and some other mediums, they have some specialized bits for that. But all of that stuff is readily available online if we don't sell it directly, and we can get you in contact with some just recommended companies for bits, as well as materials if you're looking for those things.
Got it. And then the M2 has the Z-axis option. What that's just excuse me, it's usually used for shaping, correct?
So the biggest thing you'll see with the Z-axis is you can do some light 3D carving, but the biggest thing is you're going to have auto control over your Z-axis for your depth per pass. It'll obviously raise up for your safety height when the sled is traversing without a cut. It gives you the ability to do like drill plunges. So a lot of CAM software, you can just say, hey, I have a 1/4 inch bit. I just want you to drill a 1/4 inch hole right here. Having that Z-axis gives you the ability to do that. So it's really meant to be just another level of automation that eliminates the need for you to be hands-on with the machine while it's in the middle of a cut.
Thanks about material too, that you're one of the things that we're playing with right now, that Chris sent us is some lasers. So a 5 or 10 watt and 8 watt laser. So you could do a multi-mix of where you could engrave or score and then also cut.
Got it. So I'm looking to purchase this to do flat pack furniture design. How hard is it with this system to take something from SketchUp to actual cutting and production? Is there software pipelines for that?
Flatpak is the best because it is like the ideal scenario for this machine. So if you are in SketchUp, you'll just want to do a SVG export so that you can bring it into CAM software. I don't know. It's been a while since I've been into SketchUp. I don't know if you can do like toolpath creation and like making G-code or DXF files inside of SketchUp. But the way that I have done it in the past is you'll make everything, make your designs, lay it out into a 2D layout, export as an SVG, and then import your SVG into like a CAM suite. We kind of direct people towards Easel right now just because it's free, and it's pretty easy to use. So then you would do your SVG import, do your path selection, identify thickness of your material, and then you would do your G-code creation there, and then that would give you your .nc file to bring into Makerverse. And I know it sounds like you're bouncing around all over the place to get there, but unfortunately, in the realm of CNC, there are very, very few avenues where you can go straight from design into cut without leaving a software application. And we do have some YouTube content about how to prep files for the Maslow and M2 using Easel. The Maker Cam was another one that was a big free tool that everybody was using, but since Chrome killed Flash forever, Maker Cam doesn't work anymore. So we are looking into additional avenues for the file prep, but Easel would be the thing that I would recommend you look into. But there are tons of flat pack designers out there, and actually Patrick, co-founder, him and his wife design and make a lot of flat pack designs with their M2.
Got it. The follow-up question to that is, in 3D printing, there's places like Thingiverse and repositories of workable STL files. Is there a similar online platform for the M2?
Yeah.
Hey.
I'll let Drew plug the marketplace.
Yeah, so that's the marketplace that we're building right now on our website. So it's a place where makers can upload files, either free or paid, and you can actually make money with your files on there. And then people can download files, and we don't take a cut of that. So it's all straight back into you and your shop. So we're building out the marketplace to be that repository for like CNC cut projects. There's also the Maslow Garden that exists as well. That's the first iteration of the M2, and they have some projects on there. And then you can search by like SVG, so you can search by file types. And there's some repositories, but there's not really a good one then, which is why we started developing the marketplace last year, is like to really have a place where there's tons of CNC projects where people can share them, and also be able to have the ability to make money off of them if you want to. So that's something that we're really excited about, of just like having that repository and growing that as much as possible. And that's one of our big focuses of this year too, is to grow that community as much as we can, to get it to you know, maybe not as big as Thingiverse. That's shooting pretty high, but if we could get pretty close and still have projects in there, that'd be awesome, to be able to categorize them and stuff like that, because it's hard to find stuff. I would say that design, like, you know, as Chris was saying, it's one of the most difficult things of like getting everything going, is that design. It's going to take a long time. It takes experimenting to get it your SVGs right and your cuts right, because you could design something and it looks perfect, your G code looks perfect, and then you go to cut it and you're like, I missed this measurement, and you don't know until it's cut, and then you have to go back to the drawing board. And you know, with like 3D printing, you know, you're usually doing a small prototype first, and then you're doing a larger thing, but you can't really do that in the same way. Like, you can prototype with CNC like that, but you want to get all your main measurements up front. So there's that process of design and learning that it takes time. That's what I would say the biggest hurdle is the design aspect. Once you get the kit set up and rocking, the design is the big step.
Well, so one of the things that we're doing, so like our company, we're a prototyping lab over here in San Antonio, Texas, and we've loved our Maker Mades. And so we're actually, one of my focuses this year is we've shifted one of our areas, and we have interns and other people. We're shifting part of our business model to be focused on getting things for the new marketplace. And so that's one of the things I've been trying to get this last week. I have all the guys training, and I have like 3 of our guys right now training just to learn how to do things well enough and I really want to put a focus of part of our revenue coming straight from getting that, focusing on doing that and working with that marketplace. I agree with Drew. There's a huge opportunity there, and there's nobody's really done it right. I think these guys truly have the opportunity to do it right. So I'm putting a huge focus of our business strategy on that.
Thanks, Drew. Yeah, this open desk is really cool that Chris just put in the chat. If you guys want to look in the chat, it's got a little furniture designs and flat packs and stuff like that that you guys can check out if you want to see.
So as far as setting up the machine, it's just a matter of building the frame, mounting the actual hardware, and then calibrating it, correct?
Yeah, it's just those 3 easy steps.
yeah. Macro steps.
Yeah, those are the 3 big parts. Yeah. And it takes time, like, because you got to build the frame from scratch, you got to build the M2, and then you got to have time to calibrate and to get it all going. And all those things go together. So if the frame measurements are off or something like that, that's going to like cascade all the way down to your cuts. So it takes some time and some practice to get it set up. But those are the big steps. Yeah.
Got it. What's the recommended space for the M2?
So you need to have, I would say at least probably 7 or 8 feet, and like tall. And then as far as wide goes, you probably need about 12 feet because the beam's 10 feet across the main beam. So at least that much space on a wall is what I would recommend.
What about the depth?
It's about maybe 2 feet probably, and
okay.
Just so it wouldn't be too close. I would say
so it could like go on a wall essentially.
So, yeah. And one of the cool things about it too is like these wall clamps here, these wall mounts. You don't have to attach your wasteboard to them, so you could flatten your wasteboard up against the wall or move it somewhere, and then like you can take this and you can hang it up on this hook, and then all your stuff's out of the way, so you can move this, and then you can still like utilize that space or flatten it up against the wall. You don't have to leave it set up. And it gives you that like flexibility where like if you wanted to have it in a garage, you could pull it out and use it and then just like flatten it right back up against the wall, and pull your car back in.
Got it. Okay. And then as far as long-term use goes, is it like a 3D printer where, you're finding yourself like leveling stuff and adjusting tension on the bands and all that, or?
There's always going to be a little bit of, I mean, with any digital manufacturing tool, there's always going to be like those tweaks and those small things. It's modular, so any of the parts that might wear down over time, you can replace really easily. And it's got a warranty too that'll help out with anything that might break on it. I know over time, like the chains will stretch, and they can stretch a little bit after like a long time of use. So you can get a new chains to help with that too, and like make sure that the chains stay lubricated. That's something that we've been thinking about too, is that we're probably going to have like a survey for everybody too, is like, what types of like maintenance tools do you use? So we can kind of like have recommended tools, maybe even a tool kit, things like, grease for oil in the chains, and making sure that, you have, like a large way to measure like an electronic, like measuring device, like a caliper or something or a laser leveler or something like that. So you can kind of like go through all these tools that you'll use like over time, to work on stuff. But I would say the main thing is probably the springs and the chains, because those are the main that it's just like moving around, that you'll just have to kind of keep lubricated, that over like a year or more, like they could wear down. But like I said, they're inexpensive to replace. And then it's something too, that's like under warranty. So if it goes out, we're here to keep you cutting.
Awesome.
I would recommend a dry lube for your chains, just because you're gonna get a lot of dust. And so if you use stuff like a WD-40, stuff like that's probably not the best. Use like a white lightning or a dry lube, so you're not getting dust.
Yeah, that's a good point. So it won't stick. Yeah.
I second that.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you guys for all the info.
Yeah, you bet.
Hey Drew, I'm curious. I just got my M2. I'm new to the whole Maker Made stuff. So far so good. I got about a bazillion bags full of 60 zillion parts spread out all over my workbench, and I'm building the Z-axis. I'm in a one-car garage bay, so and I'm familiar with CNC machining. So I'm building mine in an enclosure. Mine's going to look a lot like the one behind you. I'm interested.
This one?
It's going to be about a 4x4, and I built I built an enclosure for it with a swing door in the front of it, so I can load it real easy, but then close it up, because my experience with other, routing tools is that thing likes to throw sawdust all over the house. So
yeah, dust collection is always a bear.
Yeah. So I'm working on getting this thing straight and level and making sure that it fits and everything. I'm curious about the chain measurement that you've got. I noticed in a bunch of the videos online on YouTube, you've got them zip tied together on the router side of things. If I follow the instruction guide to build the M2, I use the standard chain sizing, placement, config instructions. There's nothing special because my beam isn't 10 feet, it's only 6 feet.
Yes, and mine's 6 feet too. So with this, and the way that I measured it is I just zip tied these up instead of like cutting it, because I didn't want to cut the chain. But you could cut the chain if you want to. The main thing is you just want to make sure that you have enough chain slack. And the way that I measured these, I don't remember the exact length of them. But I set it up in the middle. I measured the middle of my space, and then I put the M2 there, and then pulled the chains to it when it's in the middle. So I know that it would be in the middle, and then I jogged it down to the bottom corners to make sure that my chain length was long enough. Okay. To make sure that it was there, and it stretched out my my length, but that worked for me. So I just set it like I measured my wasteboard and put it right in the center, and then pulled the chains until they're both they're both taut. And then I like zip tied them in case I would need to change them or something along those lines in the future. If I want to build one outside too, so I can like move it back and forth between the two different ones. So I didn't want to.
I'm lobbying the wife for an addition, so I get a bigger shop, so I can actually go. You know what I mean? Now I got
see. All you have to do is hoard. So I'll put my video on here in a second in my space. But yeah, I scrapped so much stuff. My wife's finally like, okay, you have to get your own warehouse. So
there you go.
So
I would
now
suggest
we expanded 22,000 square feet.
When you're pulling it through, like you could have it hanging down right here if you wanted, and they could be like stretched down from this corner. If you wanted to have it like all the way to here, but then the chain would be hanging here, and I'd have to attach it back over here. So I didn't. I ended up not doing that too. And another thing with the small chain is this is like an inch up and an inch from the side on my 6 foot beam, and that worked for me. For my
all right, so an inch and an inch to anchor the end of the chain. Okay, that's
anchor
good.
like the end of it. on the smaller chain, because you want to make sure that it can stretch out, and this spring can still stretch as well. And I also the spacers that come with it, they're left over from the old Maslow, and I use those, and they're really helpful for me too. It's probably kind of hard to see, but there's a spacer right here that the chain kind of goes around.
Right.
I can actually probably change my view here. So the
he changed the hell out of that view.
Yeah. So here we go. Unplugged it. Came back on there. Start video. Is that back to the? There we go. So there's a spacer right here that helps the chain right here to not come off of the motors.
Of the sprocket, right? Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I saw those in the kits. Yep.
So this little spacer helped a lot, and it's an inch down from the top, and I just kind of measured to see like where would be the best space to put that.
And your motor offset on that smaller setup is still 18 inches?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it still is 18 inches. Yeah, so you still want to have at least that 18-inch motor offset, no matter, like, that's the minimum, no matter how big your frame is.
Okay, and that 18 inch, and
if you go bigger though, like we were mentioning before, like if you want to go 16 feet across or something like that, then you need to make that motor offset go up too. So at least double that, or if not more, to make sure that there's enough room for the calculations to move the M2 around. And Chris could probably talk more about like those exact dimensions for like the larger frames, but the smaller ones, you want to make sure you at least have that 18 inches between the top of the wasteboard and the top of the chain, which is where it comes off the sprocket.
Right. Yeah. And you're cutting edge to edge on that 4x4 then with your setup?
Yes, but if I go, I mean, like any frame, if you get all the way over here on the side, I don't have a skirt. So I have to watch it and like hold it if I go all the way to the side.
Okay. Yeah. So it doesn't tip.
Because it'll tilt off and kind of do this.
Right.
As it goes like close to the edge. So that's the thing you just gotta to keep in mind as you're moving around.
Okay. Cool.
Sweet.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah,
all right, I got a pretty simple question, I think. I have trouble building it. But when I watch the video of how to start using Maker Made 106, and you plug everything in, you reset the port selection, you look for the port, it's there, it says Arduino or the whole bit. Then you're supposed to open the console and there's supposed to be a bunch of code there. I get nothing. And all that, nothing below. I've read it's supposed to be a firmware update or firmware into the Arduino IDE. After watching Typical Wizardry movie about 50 times, I figured out what to do. And every time I plugged into my computer, I'd get the scream, from the motors, Anyway, last night I was able to finally install that firmware, even though it said errors, and now I don't even get the screen.
Okay, so is it connecting? Do you see the code when it connects, or are you connecting to 1.0.6 still?
Yes. If I go to the newer one, you're supposed to load the board. I don't get Arduino Do in the list.
Gotcha. Oh, okay. I can.
Chris, you want to take this one?
Yep. So when you updated the firmware using the Arduino software.
Yes.
Did you so we can go in, if there's no other, I can go through the update process real quick on my computer just to show you kind of what that looks like. And then see if that's a similar experience that you're having, if you like.
Okay.
So the first thing is you want to make sure that you have Makerverse completely closed out when you go to do the firmware update, because both Makerverse and Arduino are both actively seeking communication with that control board. So they can cause communication problems with each other if both applications are open at the same time.
Okay.
And let me, there we go. I'm just preparing my environment here. Drew, can you enable sharing, please?
Yes, absolutely. Well, there we go. Advanced sharing. All participants. There we go.
All righty. Let's just do desktop. All righty. Okay, so inside of the Arduino software, you'll see the firmware, the bundle. So when you downloaded the firmware and extracted it, you double click on the .ino file and it'll open up like this, correct?
Actually, I get a graph paper like thing, and then I have to open this from the file, from that.
Gotcha. Yes. Okay. Yeah, you can open it that way. Another way that you can do it is if you just are in, sorry, I have a lot of garbage on my computer.
We're just getting a deep dive to the downloads folder.
There we go. Yeah, so if you're in this folder here that you downloaded for the firmware, if you double click on this, it'll just open the Arduino package as well. But either way, once you have that open, you do see all of these tabs across the top, correct?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So are you on Mac or Windows?
Mac.
Okay, perfect. So on Mac, when you go to the tools option, your board should say Arduino do programming port would be your option there.
I have that option, but when I go to port, I only have the native one as a choice.
So if you only have native as a choice, so port is going to be sensor. It's gonna pick up that information from the board. When did you purchase your M2?
I received it the day before Christmas.
The day before Christmas. Okay, there's a possibility that you may have one of the old cases that had the defect. So on your,
I had to break the case and use the other port, the one that was originally covered.
Yes. Okay. So the other port is the programming port. The one that is closer to that covered power port on the lower board, on the Arduino.
So are you saying the programming port's the one that was originally open to me?
No, that was the standard, the native port was the one that was originally exposed. So as you're looking at those two ports, it'll be the USB port on the right when looking at the two USB connections on the control box.
There's a power on the Arduino. There's a power that's covered up, and it's the closest to the power that's covered up.
That's what I have it plugged into. I just looked.
Okay, good.
But it, like I said, says native, not, on
Okay.
the
That's fine. So when you plug into that under port, you'll select your port. And then you should be able to click on the get board info. Now, one thing to make sure too is that you do not have the power cord connected to the control box during this. So that you'll want to make sure that the USB connection from your computer to the board is what is powering this session. So the the barrel plug power cord that came with the M2 kit, just make sure that that's unplugged from the control box while doing the firmware. And then you should be able to, while you have connection, click on Get Board Info, and it should return like a small pop-up that'll tell you that it's a Arduino due, and it'll give you like a serial number and all that.
Yeah, I get that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you have that and you are connected to that port, then I would go ahead and click the upload button.
Okay, so basically do what I did before, but make sure Makerverse is closed and that the only cord going to the main box there is the USB, no power cord.
Correct. And then if you do experience an error, if you could capture that via a screenshot from the lower console here, and send that over to us at support@makermade.com. That will get a trouble ticket open, because you shouldn't see any kind of errors during the upload process. You should be able to just see this information here where it'll give you some information about this. There'll be like a couple AVR prompts, and then it'll just show you like the percentage. So I am interested, if you do have some errors, I would like to get an opportunity to see those. And it may be a scenario where us just swapping boards with you would be a faster solution. So if you are hitting trouble, I want to make sure that we can do something to get you up and running as fast as possible.
Excellent. I'll give this a shot tonight when I get off of work. I'm kind of confident that the Makerverse being up and the power cord might have been the issue.
And another thing too, you mentioned that you use the old version and then you also have the new version too.
I tried the new version, yeah. And
okay, so you'll want to uninstall the old version of Makerverse from your computer, because they can kind of interact with each other in weird ways. Because it won't work with your new firmware either. So you can completely uninstall 1.0.6 and then just use 1.1.2 from now on.
All right. Beautiful. Gives me something to do other than just be frustrated.
That's what we don't want.
I'm pretty good with computers until you give me 2 or 3 fails in a row, and then I'm just hitting buttons. And
we're here to help, because I mean we know that it's a process of getting it going and getting the kit and everything going, and building everything.
Was a piece of cake. I mean,
so that's why we're here.
Super fast, but decent. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you bet.
I'll let you know how it goes for me.
Yeah, we'll be here every Thursday, and then just like Chris said, you can send a message to support@makermade.com and we'll help you out.
Hey guys.
Hey Mike.
Go ahead, Mike.
Hey, just real quick. Last Friday, I tried to join the happy hour and didn't have any success. I'm not sure if it's because I was struggling to make use of the link that I found on the Facebook group, or if I was just the only attendee.
I think they started it, but there wasn't anybody in there, so we decided to start doing them once a month and promote them more. That's what we were talking about, because when we just want to make sure that everybody's there to be able to interact. So I think we're going to start doing them once a month, and we're going to do a better job of promoting them. So I'm sorry that you jumped in there and we weren't there, because we want to promote them better for projects and networking and have everybody going. So that's what we were talking about doing.
All right, I'll
sorry, man.
I'll watch for that.
Yeah, for
sure. Do you know yet which Friday of the month you plan to pick?
I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure. We might ask everybody in the group. We want to be more proactive about it, because it's for all of y'all. So we want to like interact with the group more and figure out when everybody wants to do it. Because maybe Friday's not the best day either. Maybe on like a Tuesday or a Thursday or something like that would be better. So we'll post it in the owners group for sure. Or if you want to post and start asking about it, you could do that in the owners group too if you want to find the time. Rock it out, man, because we want to do it to have a place where everybody can get together and talk about projects and stuff. It's great to do it in here too, but just to have a kind of advanced users, if you will, or advanced troubleshooting, or whatever you want to call it, just kind of free for all networking.
Cool. And then just another quick one is how's this going as far as YouTube? Are these weekly Q&As going up to YouTube? We can go back and hear what people's questions and what the answers were there. Yes,
they're all recorded. I haven't done a good job of posting the last couple, but yes, we do have them, and they just need to be. I just need to upload them to YouTube, and I haven't had a chance to do that yet. So yes, thanks for the call out. I will make sure that they get on YouTube.
Yeah, the reason
I've had to multitask a little bit, and when I got onto this
a minute ago, oh shoot, it looks like my mic might be screwing up, but hopefully you're hearing me. But a bit ago, I heard some discussion about easel and the workflow and that people are using, and I even heard something somewhere in there about flat packs and designs, and oh my God, those are all the things that I'm really curious to hear what other people are doing. So since I didn't actually get to hear the answers to any of the questions, I am really looking forward to catching it on the YouTube, so you guys don't have to repeat yourselves.
I'll
anyway,
get it posted there.
That's just my my input for you guys.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, I'll make sure that we get it up there. All right. Daniel,
So,
got some questions.
yeah, I had a few
there.
questions. Yes.
What's up?
So my first question was, do you guys have a list of the G-code commands that the M2 can make and the ones that it can't do?
That'd be a Chris question.
Chris question. Okay.
Yeah. So mostly it's going to be, it can interpret like tool change, but tool change is really going to just take it to a pause point. So like if you have T codes, it's just going to stop the machine. And all of your motion controls, the biggest thing that you're going to see is if you send it like an M code right now for like laser functionality, a lot of that stuff can find its way into G code, and it will pause. It's not that the board doesn't know what to do, it's more so that the Makerverse application isn't parsing the streaming G code to give you a user prompt. So the recommendation is any command that is available in Gerbil 1.1 is usable by the M2.
1.1. Okay. All right, that'll be it. That'll give me a helpful list. And then let's see. My second question on when I'm doing the G0 command, what's the maximum rate that the motors are capable of supporting?
1,000.
1,000 millimeters
per minute.
Per minute. Okay. Because it's when I'm outputting my G code from easel, it's defaulting the G0 command to whatever the cutting feed rate is, and that can take a long time if it needs to traverse the entire space.
Absolutely. Yeah. So your motion control, you can go up to 1,000 per minute, and then there is some like override protection in the firmware. So say you ended up sending it like a 1,500, it would just scale it back to 1,000 on the actual issue itself.
Okay. All right. And then one thing that I couldn't find in any of the documentation, and maybe I just didn't look in the right place, was on easel, what machine settings should I be using? Because right now I have it on Gerbil Other.
Yeah, so under other, there actually is a Maslow option in easel.
Okay, I wasn't sure if I should use Maslow or not. And so
Yeah,
I should be using Maslow.
Yeah, you could use Maslow. So we have the same, the M2 and the Maslow share the same drive motors and like drive speed. We have a little bit more speed during the cut just because we're using like jerk and acceleration from Gerbil, whereas the original Maslow is just using all like sequential coding. So there's no deceleration or anything like that. The biggest thing to call out is while there is a machine setup in easel for Maslow, that's really just going to be used for like a lot of your defaults for like cut speed, depth per pass, safety height, a lot of that stuff. It still doesn't prepare the file itself to be centered because we use our 00 origin is dead center in our workspace, whereas easel is made for a more Cartesian style CNC where it's going to be the left front. So on the export, the easiest way that I have found is once you have your file set up and you got everything, you got all your pockets and everything laid out, if you just select all and drag the center of your project to that 00 point within easel, then when you do the export, it'll drop your G code properly. And then you don't have to worry about doing like work offsets or anything in Makerverse.
Okay, that's helpful.
Yeah, and then just making sure that like you have the correct bits selected and your depth and just like Chris said, like your depth per pass and all those types of things. Those are since it's using the same gerbil like G code, those are the big things that you want to watch out for and make sure that you got set. Because mine is just the default. I cut stuff in easel and just the default. I don't select the machine itself. I just change the default settings. I'm just in the other.
Okay. Actually, and then there was one thing, and I think this might be like an issue of like 1.06 versus 1.12. I've noticed that at the end of running my program, it just sort of hangs. Like the program finishes its last command and then like all of the control sort of goes dead. So there's no way to like jog the machine back to machine home.
Go home?
No, like, and the only way to get it to do anything else is to disconnect from the control board and reestablish a new connection.
And that was a thing with just monitoring like the G code stream itself for looking for that M command that signifies end of cut, so that we can go into like a post cut script. And like you said, we've cleaned a lot of that up in 1.1.2. So that making the transition to 1.1.2 will give you some expanded workspace options, the ability to have soft limits in the firmware to prevent sled runaway and other things, as well as edge calibration, which will get you a lot closer to the corners in your cuts.
Okay, but and if the G code that easel is outputting for me doesn't have any M commands at the end, do I need to add like an M30 or something to terminate the program?
Yeah, it should though. From easel, and I would be curious to see if, and I'll have to, and this is just kind of, I guess laziness on my part that I've never actually done a side by side like a diff merge on the two, but I need to pull a G code using their base machine setup, like for the Xcarve, and compare that to what the Maslow processor that they have is, just to see how they're finalizing. I'm like Drew, because I will, based on my material, I modify my feed rates anyway. So it doesn't really matter which default that I'm using. I'm going to make changes to it regardless. So I'll have to see what those processors are doing to cause that, because I use just the default. I edit my material size as well as the feed rates and all of that every time that I set a project up. And that may be something that eliminates the issue for you as well.
Okay, just like terminating with an M30.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll do some G code parsing of files, like known good files that I have run on 1.0.6 and see what the closing statements on the code look like.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. So Matt or Casey or Jeremy, y'all got any questions?
Yeah, I'm more of a traditional woodworker, and I'm considering buying a Maslow or a Maker Made M2. And I was asked, I had a couple of questions about that. I primarily use Linux software. Is there any capability there, or is it I do have Windows available, but I try not to use it when I don't have to.
Yeah. So the Makerverse has Linux. It has Windows and Linux. It's got a bunch of different Linux versions, depending on what type of Linux that you use. Chris might know more about it, like depending on what version that you have. But there's a whole bunch of different Linux versions on different builds.
Okay.
And 4 different builds.
And also, if you're a Linux guy, I would think that you may be a Pi guy. As far as I'm opening the GitHub repo right now. Sorry.
Yeah, and you can see all that if you go to makerverse.com. Then you can click on get the code. It'll take you to the GitHub, and then you can find all the information and stuff on there. Just makerverse.com. Okay. It's the quickest way. And then just when you go to install, you can just click install, and it'll take you to the install page, and you'll see all the different build outs.
Okay. Yeah, and I put a link in chat that's to our releases page in GitHub. So I mean, we have AMD 64, Debian. We support i386, IA32, x64, x86, and we have RPMs, app images, the deb files. But we also, if you are a Raspberry Pi fan, we have a Raspberry Pi image that will allow you to run Makerverse standalone on a Raspberry Pi.
That's great.
And then you can just you can connect to the Pi over a web browser, and then use the Pi to run all of your cuts, and then it frees up your computer if you have access to a Pi, because then it gives you that web control capability of always having something that is connected and running, and then you can plug like a webcam into the Pi and then view the machine over the web browser in the webcam widget. That's something that we're investing a little more time into that to try to make it more kind of production. Some prior knowledge to Raspberry Pi, and getting them set up on the Wi-Fi and everything has the ability to pull those Pi images and run it standalone on a Pi through Linux.
Oh, that's great. I had no idea about Linux at all. You guys already got me with the Debian package there, so thanks for doing that, by the way, because I was really kind of considering this, and then I thought, I mean, I do have like a Windows Surface tablet or something, and I thought that only has one USB, and it's probably not great to have it out in the garage or whatever, but I have lots of Linux computers that I could allocate just for this. So, and like you said, lots of Pis too. So that's great. Thank you. That answers my question. So
awesome. No problem.
I've seen your website, the Maker Made website, and I've seen it on available on Amazon. What gets you guys the most money? I want to, let you guys, because I know Amazon takes a cut. I want to make sure you guys are getting the full amount, whatever. So
yeah, I mean, ultimately direct sales to our website. There are less fees for us associated with that. But as far as like turnaround time and everything for you, they are FBA. So if they are show as in stock on Amazon, they're fulfilled by them, and you can hold them to whatever prime agreement or shipping terms that they offer you. But as far as financially, there are less fees involved for us if we're fulfilling them through our website.
Okay. All right, cool. I've seen some people building, it looks like Drew has some freestanding, frames. And like I said, I'm a traditional woodworker. I'm pretty capable. Yeah, I'm pretty capable of making my own frame, but the freestanding ones, do they wobble, or do they suffer from, because I see there was on Drew's, there was like 4 wheels on all the bottom and everything. I'd like to do something like that. I have a French cleat wall on one of the walls in my garage, and I was thinking about allocating, 8 feet for that. But I was thinking I could make one of those, standalone frames, but I'm worried that it'll wobble or it'll shake.
You are good. So the freestanding frame is kind of where Maslow started. And it has been iterated multiple times. I still run a freestanding frame because I'm similar to you. I have quite a bit of tools and table saws and all of that stuff. I come from a traditional woodworking and mechanic side, so I have very little wall space. That, and whoever built my house decided that I needed 2 windows in the garage, which is a horrible idea.
Yeah, why?
And so I use a freestanding frame, and I love it. The biggest thing that you'll see that is different in our setup versus a traditional like suspended gantry setup is that we use worm gear direct drive motors, so that you don't see that stepper pulsation that you would see from a regular CNC machine. So there's not a lot of vibration created from the machine itself driving around. The majority of the vibration that you'll get is during an active cut of the making contact with the cut material, and that can obviously be mitigated by proper depth for pass, as well as feed rate and router speed. So I do not see any chatter at all. And with that, if you see it wobble, obviously you have the opportunity to make the improvement on your frame. I also like the freestanding frame because I have casters on mine, and so I have like a nice little like plywood storage and wood rack built into the backside. So
that's kind of what I was thinking. Yeah.
And like you can block it in place too. And since it's attached, it's like it's not attached to 2 separate things. So it's one solid easel basically. So if it's wobbling like with itself, and they're not like wobbling separately. And I haven't seen any difference in ones that are wall mounted or the freestanding ones. I haven't seen any difference in those and the cut. As long as they're built solid, like you're good to go. I haven't noticed any difference in them.
Well, I really like the wall mounted idea. I was thinking about getting a Maslow and then wall mounting it, but you guys have all the brackets and everything ready to go. But at the same time, I see these mobile ones with casters, and I thought that would be a little easier because then I don't have to dedicate, 4 feet or 8 feet on my French cleat wall or whatever permanently. So I think a cart might be, or a freestanding frame might be an option too. But I really like the wall mount because I know that's going to be sturdy. It's not going to go anywhere. So,
or if you want to be the innovator, you could make a French cleat mounted wall frame.
That's what I was thinking to do. Yes.
Put it away, and I would like to see that. That's one of those. You guys get to really push the design. So it's one of those. Everything that we put out from a frame perspective is really just a, hey, in the event that you are just wanting to get started and make something, here is the frame that will empower you to do so. But if you are one that likes to design and build things, you can run with the frame and do whatever you want. The biggest thing is that rake angle of the 15 degrees, as well as there are some minimum distances between the top beam and the top of your wasteboard. You want to stay around, 450 millimeters. So I think you're right, between like 17 and 20 inches in the distance. And I'm sorry, I talk in millimeters because I write the firmware, and the firmware is written in millimeters. So I apologize. That's just the way we do it. So from a software side, if you want your cuts to be more accurate, if you run them in millimeters instead of standard, we do have to do a standard to metric conversion, and there is some loss involved in that. So you will always get a more accurate cut if you set your G code up in millimeters, just because it's not a perfect one-to-one conversion, and just the rotational radius of the gears and everything is more metric friendly. You don't have to do design in metric. Just after you set it all up, right before you hit G code, if you just hit that little switch that says inches to millimeters, Easel will do all those conversions for you, and then you create your G code. And I can say you will get better quality cuts if your G code is in millimeters.
Okay.
And two, Matt, if you want to look at the user manual on the M2 resources page, if you scroll down to the frame build guide, at the very beginning, there's like the 3 maxims to like building a frame. So it's like the 3 big things. I don't know if you saw that or not, but so if you want to make your own custom frame, it's like, you can do that. Just make sure that these 3 things stay constant. And that's like making sure it's level, the minimum distances, and the 15-degree angle.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. I'm interested in a new project like this. So I just I think these beat ups are great, and thanks for taking my questions.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Matt. Have a good one. Casey or Jeremy, y'all got any questions before we take off?
No, Chris answered mine with the USB port, but the other one was, you guys were talking about the software. That was my big thing, going from one software to another, to another, to another. Make it simple now. Google SketchUp, you have to pay for the Pro or the Shop series, but it's only $100 a year compared to almost 300 for 360. So it's better than CAD. But the SketchUp Shop version for $100, you can export DXF and STL and many others. And now if you look at Easel, they have a DXF converter. So you can upload a DXF right into Easel, and then boom, generate your G code, and you're out the door.
Yeah, that's
great.
Awesome.
And SketchUp will also create 2D drawings, so you can export them as a 2D DXF. So that's perfect for flat pack. So I finally got it down to where I just need 2 software.
That's awesome.
And
yeah,
we're good.
And with SketchUp, do you have to find that in the extension manager, or is it in the native program?
It's in the native program. Oh, you mean in Easel for the converter?
No, in SketchUp, like the extension warehouse or whatever, where you have to go and like install like an extra thing.
No, you just, for Google SketchUp, you can get the free version, of course, but all of the export is all the way what you can export as, that's all been locked unless you pay for a version. And the cheapest version, the shop version for $100 a year, that one will allow you to export as 2D DXF. So for $100 a year, like I said, the 360 was almost $399 a year for the same functionality. So I found Google SketchUp is a lot easier, a lot cheaper, and it'll go straight into Easel, which will go straight into G code.
That is awesome. And I may, obviously I don't know if you have any desire to do so, but I come from a more like SolidWorks, Inventor, and Illustrator background from 3D and 2D design. If you would have any interest at all in putting together some form of bare bones tutorial in getting your design from SketchUp to easel, I think that would be some very quality content within the community that a lot of others could leverage.
Yeah, I can work on that. I'm doing some mods to my unit right now. So once that's all done, I can go ahead and just create a quick video tutorial of it. But to me, that was the biggest problem going from a design software to G code. We're not manufacturing facilities. I'm an engineer as well, and R&D for General Electric. And you know, you have all the tools at work to do all that, but at home, unless you have $50,000, you don't have that, right?
Yeah.
So that was the hard thing,
That
was going
process.
from something like a nice 3D model digital design, cut it to a 2D, then get it into easel so you can generate G code. So I figured out how to get that, and it's I like it because model through Google SketchUp, you know, the lower end version is as close as I'm ever going to get to 3D SolidWorks or anything like that. So that kind of helps me on my side. That's about as easy.
That's amazing. And we're looking into and putting some research towards just seeing what the effort would be required to add some form of G code creation to Makerverse. But obviously there's just a minimum amount of complexity that you have to handle to have a feature that's actually usable by more than, you know, people cutting out signs and stuff. So we just want to make sure that the feature set is there if we decide to expand into that. So it would definitely be interesting to get everyone's feedback on like what their current work cycle looks like in their process, and understanding like what file formats should be supported and what cut types everybody is interested in. Because our goal, and I know Drew gets on these a lot, and he hears me harp on this week after week. My goal as a software engineer and owner of the company is to make the machine as easily usable as humanly possible. I have, you know, I want to get it to where like my wife feels comfortable using it, because it's an intimidating machine and it's an intimidating process. And we're trying to eliminate those psychological barriers to using the machine.
Yeah. And that workflow, that helps a lot because a lot of people use to SketchUp and stuff like that. So that's really great to know.
Well, it's good for people like us. Like right now, one of the guys that come in here. So I have a new team I brought in. So I've hired some new shop guys and everything else, and I'm trying to get them trained on the Maslows and everything else. And just I'd so much rather that than some of the other things like we talked about last time, Chris, like and Drew are showing y'all the laying mirror systems. It's cool, but it's a nightmare to learn how to use. So this is something that's like it makes it great. I can get people on board quick with these things.
Awesome. So Jeremy, do you have any questions? Will you answer your questions today? I see you got a Maslow.
I do, yeah. My questions would be not worth your time. I just need to peruse the website more. So
ask away.
I appreciate that.
Ask away, man. We're here. You got us.
Yeah.
Hey, if it was worth your time to get on the meeting, it's worth my time to answer your question.
Exactly.
It would be basics like you know, bit size. What bit sizes could I use with my machine, and the jump start. And I have severe memory issues, so I have a lot of problems with websites and things like that. So
I always buy the first ones, and I still buy just the whole bit kit, the basic bit kit they have on them, and it works great just to get you, if you're getting started and you want to learn. That's been great for us.
Is that all quarter?
Yeah, it's
quarter. I think the basic kit comes with maybe like 1/8.
Yeah, let's see if I can. I don't know if I can.
I think all those. The main one, it's like upcut, downcut, and straight cut, 1/8 inch, and then a collet reducer.
Yeah.
So like I cut in 1/4 inch and 1/8 inch. Those are the two main ones that I cut in.
Okay, so I can switch to an 1/8. Okay.
Yeah. So you can't. You run the rigid router?
Yes.
Okay. So if you're running the rigid on the Jumpstart kit, that'll come. That's a 1/2 inch collet with a 1/4 inch reducer. We also have a 1/8 inch reducer that goes into a 1/4 inch collet, so you can nest that 1/4" reducer and the 1/8" reducer to run 1/8" bits in the rigid. And just kind of looking at the sign that you have behind you, I mean, that looks, that's about like 1/4".
Oh, yeah.
Right there. And if you wanted to get into more intricate designs and smaller pieces, I would definitely say going into I would say 1/4" and 1/8" bits are definitely going to be your sweet spot for bit diameter.
Yeah, the Star set does come with a 1/4" to 1/8" collet reducer. So yeah, you have upcut, downcut, straight cut. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And sometimes we'll go and buy bits. We'll just go down to like Woodcraft and we'll get bits too for our router. So depending what you're doing. So.
Yep. I think big thing I would say is when you're looking at bits, focus more on the flat-tipped milling bits.
Okay.
Some websites will market a bit as a CNC, but it'll have like a tip or a point, like a drill bit on the top. Those work well, but those are meant to be used with like a much deeper plunge rate than we're going to have with the Maslow. So you could see a decent amount of blowout when you're running, like a 8 or 16" depth per pass, because you don't have the full diameter of the bit touching the cut material. But yeah, those were the big ones. We sell a lot of bits on our website, and then if you were to look for some other manufacturers, I think the one that I like the most is the white side bits. Obviously, Amana Tool makes some really nice bits, but they're extremely proud of them. And you're looking at, I think the cheapest Amana bit that I have was $27. And if you're just getting into CNC and figuring out your feeds and speeds, you probably don't want to start by burning up $30 bits. And I would start with some of the more easily accessible bits, and then figure out which ones work the most for you. Like the project that you have behind you, obviously you want to be very, there's a word that I'm supposed to say right now, but I didn't. You want to make sure you don't blow out the top side of your surface because you're just doing pocket cuts. So that's going to be more of a down cut bit. When you start cutting all the way through, you can still go into a down cut because you have a waste surface. Obviously if you start cutting melamine, that's when you'll look at compression bits. Upcut to me is just if you're going to do a rough cut where you're just hogging out pockets and you plan to come back through with a finishing pass, then an upcut works really well because it has a much heavier chip load. And it doesn't really clog the cut path with dust. But if you're doing more detailed pocketed designs like you have behind you, I would say that a down cut, like a 2 flute down cut, would probably be your sweet spot.
Okay, I think I will go with that. One Drew recommended, the kit y'all sell.
Awesome.
And yeah, I'm getting real new to this. I've done 4 projects so far and been super happy with it. The only issue I ran into was my computer went to sleep and it went to the next deal and then threw off my calibration completely. So I had to restart. I don't know if I had to restart. I did restart my calibration process.
Yep,
so.
And that will be so. Unfortunately, it wasn't it wasn't a planned thing. But that is one of the major deficiencies in the Jumpstart kit, is that it's running on an Arduino Mega control board, and there's not any onboard storage for us to save those calibration values. So we rely on the software to tell it where home is after the cut is done. Obviously, we have the upgrade kit that converts a Jumpstart kit to an M2, but we also have I don't know if we have them in stock right now, but that the Jumpstart kit can also accommodate with just using a DO controller from the M2. And then that gives you onboard storage for all of your calibration and better machine tracking. So unfortunately, it was, part of the evolutionary life cycle of the product. And that's just a kind of a deficiency with that styled board. But we're definitely doing as much as we can in software to overcome some of those struggles. And are you using Makerverse or Ground Control?
Ground Control. Makerverse is like I said, memory issues and issues like that. I've got. It's really intimidating to me. So I would like to see the new one, if it's any different. Next week, you said.
Yeah, so 1.1.2 has full support for the Jumpstart kits as well. And it has the holy calibration, edge calibration, all of that stuff that you're used to seeing in Ground Control. And it doesn't have the version match requirement with the firmware that you see in Ground Control, where if you update Ground Control, you have to update firmware. So definitely excited to introduce that to the community. And if you ever need some one-on-one time or you want to go over everything, and reach out, we can schedule something.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
I definitely appreciate that.
I write down my values because I had to move some of these around and wiggle it, and I changed my waste board. I actually write them down in Sharpies, like my distance between motors and stuff, like that I know are gonna like be constant to help me. So that
shower backer board, $13 at Home Depot.
Yeah,
pop up whiteboard. So you'll see everywhere, all over here. I have whiteboards everywhere.
And then if you lose the calibration, you can just be like, there it is, and then you can.
Or if you're an ADHD dyslexic engineer like me, then it makes your life 1,000 times easier.
I take pictures of everything in my life, and I have to, but that I actually did do that this last time. I didn't do it the first time, so I appreciate that. Yeah, and I can say that the setup, the calibration, everything for somebody like me was actually really exciting. So, and I don't want to say easy, but it went well, and my first project went well. So,
well, that's awesome, Jeremy. Thanks for that. I'm glad that
Thank you, guys.
Good for you.
Yeah.
You bet. Yeah. All right. Well,
those are great questions.
Thanks.
I got a question for you. So I've got this R50 end mill, and I can't surfacing end mill. I can't seem to get it fit in my mouse though.
I would recommend.
Are you drilling holes in like cars? Do an engine block?
You're just going to need to put a handle on that and go the manual mode with that one.
I won a bunch of an auction, and I thought they'd fit our big mills, and they were massive. I can't even imagine. Our mills were like 12 tons. I can't imagine how big of those mills are for those things.
Yeah. All right. Well, cool, guys. Well, thanks a lot. Y'all have a good one. Good luck cutting, and we'll see y'all later.
Thanks, guys.
Chris, I'll get with you later too on the laser stuff. So okay. I've got the guys going. We've been trying to get all that together for you. I just and we're gonna take some videos and get all that stuff. I've got our video guy going to take videos and stuff for y'all. So
when is the laser going to be delivered or available?
So we are pushing as hard as we can. Currently not in a position to commit to a timeline. But I can say it's not a software limitation that's preventing us. So once we get bracketry sourced and all that and instructions, our biggest thing is it's not that the laser module doesn't currently work. It's that we want to give you the same experience with instructions and a lot of support in getting it running on your machine. And so we're doing a lot of preventative maintenance and forward thinking with getting the documentation ready before we release those to the public.
And there's things you want to check, like they've done, actually, Chris, you've done a great job of sourcing these two, because this one has air assist. You'll catch fire. For some reason that stalled, even with the 8 or 10 watt, you're gonna catch material on fire, which we have that fire about once a week with our lasers usually, especially our big 100 watts. And
Yeah,
then,
we just want to make sure that everything's all set before we announce it.
yeah, no, but it's really cool. These ones are great because they're cool. They have a good cooling system, so you can run it for long. Because with that larger surface area, you have to worry about the diodes overheating. It's got air assist. A pretty impressive little setup. So I'm gonna make some acrylic plates for you. So at least for now, you have some kind of mounting thing that we could upload for anybody else to make. Once we get those, I'll give it to you, Chris. So okay, cool.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks a lot, y'all. See ya.
Thanks,
Have a
guys.
good
there. Bye.